Hey guys, remember Jumping Flash? No? Oh. Well, you see, back in the day, there was this games console called the PlayStation 1, and it was a pretty big deal, though we didn't call it the PlayStation 1 at the time, we just called it the PlayStation because we didn't know about the PlayStation 2 yet. Amongst the batch of games that released during its inaugural year, Jumping Flash was certainly one of them. As for what it was all about, you play as a robotic bunny called Robert, sent to thwart the plans of an evil scientist who has decided to just full-on levitate chunks of land into the sky to turn into holiday resorts, and you pretty much gotta jump around, as the Jumping Flash in the name implies, and shoot the things that are trying to stop you. Quite fun if memory serves, though last time I played it felt like an absolute age ago, so take that with a pinch of salt. But now, through the miracle of technology and modding and Doom, we now have Jumping Flash Doom. In terms of what survived the translation between original game and Doom mod here, truth be told, a fair hefty chunk. For starters, you've got the jump, double jump, even triple jump as standard, the ability to boop enemies on the head with your feet to destroy them. You've also got access to the full weapon loadout that was present in Jumping Flash, as well as the radar, which, in all honesty, I didn't really get that much use out of. Maybe it's just from personal familiarity with the levels that I was playing. I did feel a slight pang of sadness that this didn't include the full screen encompassing HUD, but hey, I think I'll survive. In terms of levels, Jumping Flash Doom doesn't natively come with any pre-created levels, so in terms of finding the best venue for this kind of action, it's entirely up to you. I'd probably find some levels with wide open spaces, maybe a bit of open air, high ceiling action to encourage that kind of jumping style gameplay, but otherwise, it's a novel and interesting way to experience those original Doom and Doom 2 levels. You'll also notice that the enemies here have been brought across from Jumping Flash. This is actually courtesy of an optional monster pack, so you don't have to roll with this as standard, but it's worth giving it a few tries just to experience the full, overwhelming adorableness of the enemy designs. I mean, the frogs have top hats. I feel guilty destroying them, in all honesty. But yes, this ultimately means that Jumping Flash Doom should be compatible with any old monster pack you choose to throw at it, as well as your standard vanilla Doom enemies. And gore mods, which of course was the first thing I thought of, because there's nothing more funny to me than a cutesy robot bunny jumping on demons hard enough to turn them into chunky salsa. But yes, as for the aforementioned weaponry of Jumping Flash, you'll always have access to a default to these pew-pew lasers, and then escalates with the power orbs, the bottle rockets, the Roman candles, and then at the very tippy top, the bombs. Out of all of them, I would say that the orbs are probably the least satisfying thing to use as a whole. They don't detonate on impact, they just scatter on the ground and then detonate on a timer, which is actually really tricky to maneuver enemies into. You might as well switch to something like the bottle rocket in the meantime and just take him out while you're waiting. As for the Roman candles, they absolutely laser your enemies into submission and is mildly hilarious to witness in action with that aforementioned gore mod. It just keeps spilling out. It won't stop. On a similar note, with such mods enabled, using the bombs feels like a contravention of the Geneva Convention, and without are still the most powerful thing you have to hand, which is probably why you can only have a maximum of 10 of them. Overall, it does feel like you run out of ammo on a fairly frequent basis, so you'll be running back to those defaults fairly often. And as for the kind of challenge you should expect while playing Jumping Flash Doom, well, as I alluded to earlier, that will entirely depend on the kind of map sets that you bring to the party. Like I said, open air, high ceiling, that's probably going to give you the best experience for this style of gameplay. But in all honesty, beneath that cutesy exterior, you can occasionally find yourself getting quite overwhelmed with high numbers of enemies during the course of Jumping Flash Doom, so yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend a slaughter wad, that's for sure. That said, however, if you fancy a hoot, try spinning this up with nuts.wad and seeing how far you can get by just hopping over enemies' heads. For those of you curious, yes, the Cyber Demon and the Mastermind do indeed get swapped out for Jumping Flash variants, and I'd be remiss if I ended this video without showing you the intermission screen. What is going on there? I think it might be from Jumping Flash 2, and I have questions. But yes, in sum total, tremendously adorable, and for the literally dozens of Jumping Flash fans out there, this will no doubt be a very pleasant trip down memory lane. As usual, if you fancy giving this a whirl for yourself, the link, as usual, will be in the description below. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful day. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.